Hello, my name is the Legend Tuba Guy. You're watching Tuba Makes. I print and sell those Gooner models the 3D printing subreddits love to hate. Today I've got a little bit of an update video for you. I told you that I would be expanding my print farm, and so I have done. Last time you were here, I think you saw 6 Saturn IV Ultra 12Ks. Now I have 11. I'm going to talk you through the process of going up to 11 Saturn IV Ultra 12Ks, why I'm still choosing the Saturn IV Ultra 12K, why I'm probably not choosing it in the future, the Chi2 Systems hoop hat, a little bit about IPA processing, and we'll see what we get up to. So last time you were here, this shelf on the left here housed all 6 Saturn IV Ultra 12Ks. Now it's just these 3. You can see here on this shelf, I've got 4 on this top shelf and another 4 on this bottom shelf over here. The 2 on the left and the 4 up top are my original 6, and they've been working great. So I don't know how many people are using Saturn IV Ultras day in, day out, basically all day, every day. But this one right here with the little orange vinyl cutout has been going on with me for like a year now. So these are really reliable machines. I don't get why people hate on them so much. And I haven't really had a whole lot of problems with them. But in saying that, I have had to replace screens, and this specific machine right here that I've had for a year, I did just have to replace the motherboard. Nothing super complicated. If you watch my screen replacement video, I've gotten very good at replacing screens on these. So that's a consumable part though. So I don't really count that as unreliable in terms of the machine. Also, changing out to the Chi2 hoop hat has made film changes incredibly easy. So what used to be a 30-minute process with the original vats now takes me about 5 minutes, which is great. The other thing is, we think about me having been doing this for like a year now is my shelf setup. So it's these wire rack shelves that I've gotten from Menards and then Lowe's or something. But I put this black vinyl on it, and the black vinyl has stood up really well. So I just continue to do that. It cleans up super nice, super easy, just with paper towels, even IPA if you want to get it nice and clean. And I've really had no problems with it. So I would highly recommend it. Super cheap, easy way to just coat the wood, and then you don't have to worry about resin soaking into the wood. I think last time you were here, I had my cleaning station set up over here, but it wasn't as big as it is now, I don't think. And I didn't have as nice of lighting. So upgraded the lighting, which is super nice. As I get older, lose eyesight, I guess. I don't know. It's nicer to see things, especially little tiny things. And I am still, one of the very first videos on this channel was reviewing this Mercury 3 Plus wash and cure station, and it is still going strong. So I don't know the longevity of these machines or what Elegoo says the longevity of these machines should be, but it's been working out really, really well. I have no complaints about these. I've seen other people where their LEDs start dying. Mine have not. Mine have been working great, and so I'll just keep using them until they die. Similar setup to, I think, what you saw last time. I've still got my like misfits, misprints down there, and storage for resin and other things. Speaking of resin, I'm still using the Sunlu ABS-like, but I saw one day that they were selling these giant jugs, the 4-kilogram jugs on Amazon, and that is the best kilogram price I can find. Even if you contact them on AliExpress and ask, hey, how much would it be for me to ship a whole shipment from China? You will not get a better per kilogram price than these 4-kilogram jugs. So that has been awesome. I would highly recommend it. Sunlu ABS-like dark gray has been a fantastic resin to work with. I am going to try moving to a standard resin. The ABS like blooms a little bit. On big statues, I don't think you really notice it. I think you really notice it on miniatures and small little teeny tiny details. So now that I've got 2 shelves back to back of printers, I went ahead and bought this cart. This works great because I can wheel it up and down the little aisle here, but also it gives me a nice big surface to put these wash tubs that I use to clean off prints into. So when I take a build plate off the printer, I put them into one of these bus bins and then scrape off the parts. And I can do all of that here on this little cart. So it holds 1 bus bin. If you've got 11 printers, you're gonna want more than 1 bus bin to hold parts in. So this cart from Uline works great. Would recommend. I've gotten a couple questions on my IPA setup and what I'm doing for potentially cleaning, reusing IPA. I wouldn't say that I'm cleaning IPA. I wouldn't say that I'm reusing IPA. I have two sets of pre-wash essentially, and I've got another tub down by my foot for the left machine that I run my pre-wash through, and then I pull it out and use that as a cure station. But I essentially cycle through two sets of pre-wash IPA. One set I leave in a 5-gallon bucket and I let the colorant settle out, and you'll see the colorant settle to the bottom. It's important to note, I think there's some misconceptions around what you're seeing when that happens. You're not seeing the resin settle out. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, the resin's at the bottom. No, you're seeing the colorant. So the whole point of IPA is that it's a solvent for this resin. When it's a solvent for the resin, that means that the resin is in solution. It's not going to fall out of solution like that. The colorant will, though. So by removing the colorant and decanting the IPA off the top, what you're doing is you're increasing the mechanical cleaning properties of the IPA. So that allows you to use the solvent for longer in a washing solution. So that's what I do. So I let the colorant settle out, decant off the top, and then use that. And I'll cycle that through a few times with my pre-wash setup here. And then once my post-wash, this final wash here to the right, gets sufficiently dirty, I'll make that my new pre-wash and load it up with fresh, clean IPA moving forward. So it's a nice, pure, clean 99.9% IPA at the final wash. And here at the end, I wanted to come back inside and share some stats with you for those of you that are running print farms or thinking about starting a print farm, resin print farm, and selling on Etsy, especially the Gooner models that everybody loves to hate on, what that kind of looks like. So I have been selling for close to a year here at the end of November. And during the summer, as I said in the garage, it got incredibly hot in the garage during the summer. So like well over 100 degrees in the garage. I couldn't do much out there. So I had to slow things down. And another thing that I'm seeing is I have a pretty healthy profit margin percentage, but a profit margin percentage on top of a dollar item is a very different proposition than on top of a $20, $30, $40 item or $200 item. So that will increase the actual total dollar amount, which I'm here to make money. You should be too, you know? But I just wanted to share some high-level stats with you. Just know that like I took kind of an extended pause during the summer just because the garage was too hot and I can't have them inside because of the fumes. It smells terrible. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to subject my partner living here in the same place to that. And I don't want, landlord to be mad at me. I don't know. So in our first year, we've had 718 orders, and that's just over $21,000 in revenue. And just views on Etsy alone of all-time views for the past year, we're at 280,000 views, 122.4 thousand visits. I've had people ask in comments before, what do you do to advertise? And the answer is nothing. I don't know if I've just found some niche that doesn't have a lot of supply. I don't know if, there's so many Gooner models that everybody wants. I really don't, I don't know how that is working out for me, but it's working out really well. And I will continue to do it. One of the things that I need to change up about my whole process is the file slicing, order management, and print job management. And I'm working on a software solution for that. My big boy job, as I call it, is in cloud architecture, but also like software development type things. And so I'm working on doing that so that I can integrate with Etsy, bring orders in, track print jobs, because an order could have one print job, could have 15 print jobs, could have any number of things happen. I want to be able to track failed prints. I want to be able to track printer maintenance. I want to be able to track all of that stuff, resin usage. I also want to be able to handle releases. If you subscribe to a Patreon of these models or probably other models, you likely know the absolute hellscape that it is trying to manage all of the releases. If you're an artist making these models, first of all, I love you. Thank you for the tits and dicks. We love those. However, you all use the most asinine file management anyone's ever seen. It could be a zip one day, a RAR the next day. It could be a zip with a RAR inside of it. You have no idea. It could be G-zipped. It could be anything. It drives me I don't know if I have ADHD or I'm some level of autistic. I don't know, but it makes me irrationally angry at the absolute shit show that is the file management of these releases. You can have one artist release a model, okay, and it looks a certain way. So you're like, oh, it's going to look that way for this artist all the time. No, the next model could be entirely different. Could be entirely different. They could change the support settings they were using. It'll be entirely different. All of a sudden, their supports might be failing. Their supports might be better. Who knows? No one knows. The naming of the files could be entirely different. The folder structure entirely different. The number of renders they offer entirely different. The number of variations they offer entirely different. Maybe they offer an exposed top, but not a fully nude. Maybe there's a futa erect and a futa soft. Sky's the limit. So I'm working on software that I can throw a zip, RAR, whatever, and say, this is a release file for this artist and it maps to this product, and file those away for me automatically so I don't have to do it. Because one of the things that takes me a very long time, so this is like my streaming PC and my recording setup and whatever else, but I'm normally over here on my Mac, and moving files around on Macs is absolute garbage. Using Finder and like dragging and dropping and trying to do things quickly, no. It's terrible. So you want a scripted solution to be able to do that. And so that's part of the software solution that I'm working on. I want all of it to be cohesive. I want to be able to track individual STLs so that I can actually see a render of what that part is supposed to look like, either with supports, without supports, whatever the artist, model artist was supplying. Because really, when I'm out in the garage, if I have a part that's failed, I want to be able to pull that up and see, like, what the hell was this, right? Like, I might be able to pull it out of the vat and see that it was, oh, this is a leg. Sometimes you have no idea, but you might know that, like, well, damn, how many legs was this model supposed to have? I don't fucking know, right? So I want to be able to track all of that, and I also want this to control all the pricing for me and also do all the listings to Etsy for me. One of the big items that I had to pull back on was the number of items that I offer in my Etsy catalog. Managing hundreds of listings on Etsy is kind of a fucking nightmare. Let's say that an artist comes to you and says, hey, you need to be including this text in any listing you have that is of my artwork, of my models. Well, how many listings do you have of that artist? If you have 100 listings from that artist, you now have to go manually update 100 different listings. I'm not doing that. I absolutely refuse to do that. So I need this software solution to be like give me a template thing, a template engine of some kind, almost like if you're older, you'll know mail merges in Word and Office and shit. I need that essentially, right? So I can say this artist has this snippet. So if it's a listing for this artist, always include this. If it's a resin listing, make sure you include this. If it's an FDM listing, make sure you include this. All of that stuff, I want this software system solution to handle. So I don't know what the future for that looks like. Maybe that'll be the next video. It's still very much a work in progress, but I feel like there are a lot of people out there that aren't even running print farms, but are just trying to manage the files that come out of these Patreons that you want to subscribe to and support because you like the models and you want to pay the artists. That's a good thing, but you need a better way to track all of that and to organize it. And it just doesn't exist today. I have looked, I have tried so many of the different solutions, and they're just not great. They don't work the way I need them to work. They don't work the way that my brain needs them to work. So I'm working on that. That might be the next video. I don't know. If you have any questions for me, leave them down in the comments section down below. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And I'm going to leave a link to my Tuba Makes Discord down in the description down below. If you're running a resin print farm, or if you have any questions about resin printing that you think I can answer, or you want to know something about an experience that I've had running a resin print farm for a year, or anything at all, join that Discord, hop in there, be happy to help. Be happy to have a conversation about whatever. That'll be down in the description down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you, and goodbye.